Come on in. It's Art Linkletter's house party. From CBS Television City in Hollywood, Art Linkletter's house party, presented by Lever Brothers Company, makers of Surf, the all-purpose detergent.
When things are really clean, they just have to smell clean, too. And if they don't, well, they aren't as clean as they should be. But you can depend on Surf. It gets things so clean they smell like sunshine. And that means they're clean, clear through.
And now here's the old surf writer himself, Art Linkletter.
Good morning, good afternoon. Well, it's a nice day out here in California, somewhere. We hope you're going to enjoy this next half hour. We have, as a special guest, the man with the most fabulous reputation for running hotels in the whole world, Mr. Conrad Hilton.
And now Art Linkletter presents today's special house party guest with an amazing success story.
One of my good friends here in Southern California is the internationally famous hotel man. I'd like you to meet him and know him in person as I do. Mr. Conrad Hilton, ladies and gentlemen. Connie is known as a Texan, a fabulous Texan. And actually, if the truth is known, you are not from Texas originally at all, are you?
No, I'm not. I was born in New Mexico.
So let's give New Mexico credit for one of our big men here in the country today. And you are a big fellow. You're about 6...
6 feet 2.
Mm-hmm. You weigh about 185?
That's right. I do exactly.
That's surprised, huh? I used to work in circuses. Connie, everybody knows that your business is running hotels. Perhaps more hotels and bigger hotels and more interesting hotels than anybody else in the world. But I bet they don't know that you didn't start out to be a hotel man, did you?
No. I was born in a little town in New Mexico, and I wanted to become a banker.
A banker? Well, then, what switched you into the hotel business?
Well, I went down to buy a bank right after the war, 1919, in a little town in Cisco, Texas. And the banker had agreed to sell me this little small bank, and then he raised me $5,000. That made me mad, and I was staying at this hotel, and I happened to ask the hotel proprietor how much money he was making, and he told me he was making a lot of money. So I says, I'd like to buy your hotel. Here's where I don't become a banker, and I'm going to become a hotel man.
And that's what happened, and you certainly did. And then, of course, you went on, got other hotels in Texas, and about the time the Depression hit, how many hotels did you have?
Well, I think I had 8 hotels in Texas at that time.
Of course, you have 24 hotels throughout the world now, but you bought your first one in what town was it?
A little town called Cisco, Texas, called the Mobley Hotel.
By the way, where'd you get your money to buy this hotel?
Well, I had a little money. I had, as I recall, about $5,000, and I got $5,000 from my mother, and I met 2 friends, and they put in $5,000 each. And then I went over across the street to a bank, and I borrowed the rest of the money that I needed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What would you say was your first big break? It had something to do with a deathbed story, didn't it?
Oh, yes. Right after the war, I went up to see a young lady that I was quite fond of in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And her father was very ill at the time, and I went up to see him, and he turned to me and he said, Connie, if you'll go to Texas, you'll make your fortune. And he says, I'm not long for this world, but this is my advice to you. And so it impressed me so much that I started for Texas 2 days later.
And that's really what got you started then.
That's right.
And then, of course, along came the Depression. You had 7 or 8 hotels, but by working very hard, doing the best you could, cutting all the corners and everything else, as I recall it, you finally wound up only owing $500,000 and no income.
That's right.
This is a story of success, but you got to know the rough bumps that Connie took as he went along, too. You even took the ink out of some of the ink wells, didn't you, to save money?
That's right. We were trying to cut down the expenses to live. You know, that Depression was pretty bad. You remember, Art, don't you?
Yes.
I remember one day that I borrowed $300 from one of my bellboys.
In which hotel was this?
That was in Dallas. Eddie Fowler was his name. He had more money than I did.
This was a Hilton hotel, and he's borrowed money from the bellboys. Of course, now what has thrilled you most? Let's go to the other extreme. The biggest thrill you got in your climb.
The biggest one was buying the then Stevens, the now Conrad Hilton Hotel in Chicago, the largest hotel in the world.
How many rooms?
It has 3,000 rooms. In other words, if you like that hotel, Art, it would take you 7 years to sleep in every room of it if you changed every night.
My goodness. Well, what about the Waldorf? That must have been a big thrill.
Well, yes, the Waldorf was a tremendous thrill, too. But the Conrad Hilton, that was the biggest.
Now, of course, out here in Southern California, we're all excited, those of us who drive up and down Wilshire Boulevard, to see the progress being made on the big Beverly Hilton Hotel that's going up on the corner of Wilshire and Santa Monica.
Yes, that hotel we expect to complete March the 1st next year. We've been building on it now 6 or 7 months, and we're out of the ground, and it'll be soon going very fast. I think, Art, it's going to be the most glamorous hotel in the world.
When do you think it'll open?
About March the 1st, 1955.
Could I come for the opening?
Yes, sir. I hope you will come.
Well, I'll be delighted.
Supposing the two of us may be very well standing together there like we are today.
Emceeing the opening?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good idea. Picking up a little business here as we go along, folks. If you don't mind, I have to look ahead for banquets, parties, weddings, funerals. I speak everywhere. Connie, let's get for a moment here. There's such a wonderful story. What about your international hotels? You've built and are operating hotels in places like Puerto Rico and Egypt and...
Well, we have started to build hotels around the world now. We have the latest one that we opened was in Madrid, Spain, the Castellana Hilton. We'll open another one in Istanbul, Constantinople, to some of the older ones, but Istanbul, Turkey, in October of this year. Then we recently made a deal in as far away as Cairo, Egypt.
Well, of course, I wonder if you folks realize that American-run hotels give our foreign policy in all of the other countries of the world a real boost. I think the last time you had breakfast with President Eisenhower, I was back in Washington a couple of months ago when that happened, he mentioned to you how important hotels are in the foreign policy of this country.
That's right, he did. And we believe that through world travel, we may help world peace. And in these different countries that we go to, we get to rubbing elbows with the others and getting to know each other. Prejudices may be erased, and we think it's going to contribute to...
Well, Mr. Hilton, I think you've said a very important thing there. And we appreciate visiting with you. I know that all of the millions of people who stayed in Hilton hotels have gotten a kick out of meeting their landlord. And I want to return something to you, by the way, that's been bothering me for a long time. I stayed at the Hilton in Chicago a couple of years ago, and here's your towel back. Thank you very much. Goodbye.